Frost seeding is a great way to establish switchgrass. In this video, I'm going to have everything that you need to know about frost seeding switchgrass, including the how and why behind it. So stick with me and I'll show you exactly what you need to do to have frost seeding switchgrass success. So we all want to get our switchgrass in the ground and growing as quick as possible. I get it. But the key to a good switchgrass stand like this one is the prep work. If you do not do the proper prep work for your switchgrass planting, I can assure you that it will fail. The good thing is, if you do the proper prep work, your frost-seeded switchgrass stand can have a very, very high chance of success. And it's not tough to do, you just need to commit to doing the work. The first part of your switchgrass prep work is to spray. I like to spray my first spraying when the cool season grass is 1 to 4 inches tall. This is a great time to kill your cool season grasses, your cool season annuals, your cool season perennials that are popping in the spring and will compete with your switchgrass that's going to germinate the following year. For my first spraying, I generally just use glyphosate. And in Minnesota, my first spraying normally occurs early to mid-May. Once my chemical has turned the weeds good and brown, I burn off that thatch layer with prescribed fire. I've planted 90+% of the switchgrass on our farm using herbicide, fire, and a hand seeder. So this just shows you that you do not need big equipment to establish switchgrass. Once I get that thatch layer burnt off, I do my second spraying of herbicide late June. If there are a lot of broadleaf leaves present, I will spray glyphosate along with 2,4-D. I like to spray late June because this is when your warm season annuals start to pop, like foxtail and pigweed. Foxtail is one of the main reasons why first year stands of switchgrass fail. So we want to make sure that we're doing the second spraying once the foxtail is popping, but before it goes to seed. Once we're done with our second spraying, we may do one more spraying anywhere from mid-August to early September if there are some residual weeds that are still present. We want a bare dirt, weed-free seed bed going into the following spring so that we're ready to frost seed our switchgrass. Now that our prep work is done, we're ready to do our frost seeding in the spring. I like to do my frost seeding immediately after snowmelt or when there's just a crust of snow on the ground. It's nice to frost seed when there's just a little bit of snow on the ground so you can see your seeding rate, but you want to make sure that you're doing it on a warm day when that snow is nice and sticky. If you frost seed when the snow is cold and frozen, what can happen is your seed will sit on top of the snow, and if you get any type of winds, the wind will blow your seed off of the snow. You also don't want to frost seed when there's too much snow because then you might be susceptible to runoff if there's a lot of slope in the area that you're frost seeding. My frost seeding rates depend on what my goals are for the area that I'm planting. If I'm frost seeding for screening, I will frost seed at around 10 pounds per acre. If I'm frost seeding for wildlife habitat or deer bedding, I'm frost seeding at around 6 to 8 pounds per acre with plenty of pockets that are open within that frost seeded area that do not have switchgrass planted in them. I want those open pockets for diverse plants to grow in, as well as for areas for the deer to bed down. The deer often tend to bed down in these open pockets up against the switchgrass that I've planted. Another great way to frost seed switchgrass is to plant soybeans into the area that you want to plant your switchgrass the year prior to frost seeding. If you do a good job keeping the soybeans sprayed and weed free, you'll have perfectly prepped ground for your switchgrass seeding the following spring. As a bonus, the area that you'll be planting your switchgrass will have some wildlife benefit the year prior to planting as opposed to being bare dirt. If you have an area that you want to establish switchgrass in that was planted into corn the year prior to your switchgrass planting and was chopped, this is also a scenario where the ground will be prepped and ready for your switchgrass seeding that following spring after the corn was harvested. If the corn was combined, you'd want to remove that thatch layer by either burning it off or baling it off if you want to frost seed switchgrass into the combine cornfield. After I've frost seeded my switchgrass, I will spray simazine, which is a pre-emergent herbicide, at 2 quarts per acre just prior to green up. The simazine will work to suppress some of those residual weeds that may still pop even after your prep work that you did the year prior. If for whatever reason you're still dealing with weeds even after the switchgrass has germinated, you can mow to help control the weeds. When you mow, you want to make sure that you set the mower deck just above the newly germinated switchgrass. You don't want to cut your new switchgrass because you don't want to risk stressing it while it's establishing its new root system. So why do I frost seed? Well, one, I do it because it's very easy to do. Any landowner with access to hand tools can prepare and set up an area for frost seeding switchgrass. The second reason I like to frost seed switchgrass is because every lot of switchgrass will have some degree of hard or dormant seed. That hard and dormant seed needs the freezing and thawing of nature to stratify and open up so that it can germinate the year that it's planted. If switchgrass seed does not stratify, it will not germinate until the second year of planting. I like to emulate nature and get my switchgrass seed down when there are plenty of freezing and thawing days left in the forecast. Now, can you establish switchgrass during the growing season? Absolutely. If you have a low dormancy bag of switchgrass, you can establish it during the growing season with a no-till drill with a high degree of success. But most guys don't have access to that type of equipment, so that's where frost seeding becomes a very good option for most landowners. Well, that's all I have for today. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, feel free to like and subscribe so you can follow along with more habitat and switchgrass related content. But in the meantime, you all take care. God bless.